Victoria Cross is 150 years old this year. Yet nearly half of all the VCs ever awarded were given during just 4 of those years, in a single conflict, the First World War. It began on a blisteringly hot day in August 1914. It ended in the mud and rain on November the 11th, 1918. By then, over 630 Victoria Crosses had been awarded. One of the men featured in this film was someone I knew quite well. Jackie Smythe won his VC in 1915, leading troops of the Indian Army in France. In his book, he says that many people have asked him what sort of men win the VC. He replies, any sort, because courage is an unpredictable thing. No one knows quite how much they have and quite what it will enable them to do. It's well put, and I think the VCs in this film illustrate it perfectly. From the trenches of the Western Front to Gallipoli, in the air and at sea, they won their VCs in all ways imaginable. One of them, indeed, was just a boy. All of them showed courage beyond the call of duty. All showed they were willing to sacrifice themselves for their comrades.
It is August 23rd, 1914. 3 weeks into the First World War, but the British Army is yet to fire a shot. Machine gunners of the Royal Fusiliers are setting up defences on a bridge in Belgium. In command is Lieutenant Maurice Dease, a 24-year-old Irish Catholic in his first battle.
Have you seen anything yet? Nothing yet, sir.
The machine gunner is Private Sidney Godley, a 25-year-old professional soldier from South London. An ex-ironmonger with a fondness for sport and drink, this is also his first battle.
A little Belgian boy and girl came up on a bridge and bought us some food.
Monsieur, Roger, pardon.
All right. Thank you. We was thoroughly enjoying what they bought, and I was talking to them as best I could. Then the Germans started shelling. I told them they best scarper, and they took off.
These men are directly in the path of the invading German army and are hopelessly outnumbered. Before the day is out, Dease and Godley will earn the first 2 Victoria Crosses of the Great War. One of them will not live to receive it. The other will not get his for another 5 years. November 1914, the earliest VCs of the war are announced. The first goes to Lieutenant Maurice Dease. The second to Private Sid Godley. Like every Victoria Cross since the medal began, they are published in the London Gazette, Britain's official newspaper of record.
On the 23rd of August 1914 at Mons in Belgium, a bridge was being defended by a single company of Royal Fusiliers. Lieutenant Dease was seriously wounded during the attack, but he remained on the bridge and continued to lead and encourage his men. When all except himself were killed or wounded, Private Godley held the enemy back for 2 hours single-handed under heavy fire. He successfully covered the retreat of his comrades, but he himself was taken prisoner.
Sid's last act of defiance was to smash his gun to pieces and throw it into the canal before retreating. The Germans eventually caught up with him and hauled him back. Maurice Dees died on the bridge, along with many of his men. And Sid would spend the rest of the war in a German prison camp. It would be nearly 5 years before he would set foot in England again. By the end of 1914, the tiny professional army of which Godley and Dees were part was a spent force. New blood was needed, and thousands in Britain answered the call. Future winners of the Victoria Cross were gathering. During the next 4 years, more VCs would be won and more lives lost than at any time before or since in Britain's history. The war is scaling up. From all over Britain and the Empire, new troops flood in. Among them, 29-year-old Noel Chavasse, a medical officer with the Liverpool Scottish, who arrives in France in November 1914.
Chop, chop, Geordie, there's still more to come.
Dissatisfied with the way medical services are organised, he sets out on his own path.
At present, I'm busy building a hospital in the trenches. It's a new scheme of my own and approved of by most of the men.
Morning, Doc. Morning. Stretcher in the corner, please, on the wall if you can.
There simply needs to be some shelter for the wounded behind every trench. The dressing station proper is often so far away. But I do not intend to run any unnecessary risks. My blood is not heroic.
Chavasse will be the only man to win 2 VCs in the Great War. But the services of some are not required, not yet at least. Jack Cornwell is a tea delivery boy from East London, but at 14, he's too young to serve.
Not in khaki yet, young Cornwell?
Well, I've tried, Mr. Escort, but they won't have me on account of my age. The next birthday I shall be in. You mark my words.
Good for you, lad.
Within a year, Cornwell will join the Royal Navy with the rank of Boy First Class. He'll become the youngest VC of the Great War, one of the 3 youngest of all time. Jackie Smythe is 21, a junior officer in the Indian Army, and armed with a self-help book on courage.
Just before the war, I was given a book called Right and Wrong Thinking. It helped me enormously to overcome fear. By taking control of his thoughts, it said, a man could become the arbiter of his own destiny. What interested me was, in the dangerous atmosphere of battle, could the discordant thought of fear be dropped from the mind and replaced by the positive thought of courage?
Soon, Jackie Smythe will win a VC, surviving an action that had already cost many lives.
A company of my own regiment and of Highlanders were holding a portion of captured German trench about 300 yards in front of our own front line. They were under increasingly severe attack and were running out of grenades and ammunition. Unless these could be supplied, they would be overrun.
Many men had been killed that morning trying to reach the beleaguered company. It was about to be Smythe's turn.
Hello, old chap. What does it look like out there?
Oh, not too good, sir. When my company commander asked if I thought it possible for me to have a go, I said no. But I would, of course, do it if required.
Well, good luck.
I must confess there was nothing heroic about my feelings. I was in an absolute blue funk. But when I asked for volunteers, all of my men stepped forward. That put courage into me.
Smythe and his little band made their way across open ground. Rifle and machine gun bullets ripped up the ground around them, and shells came in their direction.
The corpses gave us our only cover, along with the smoke from the shells landing all around us.
By the time they reached the cover of a shallow trench, almost all of Smythe's men had been killed or wounded.
Eventually I arrived with one man, Lal Singh, and one of the 2 boxes of bombs. Poor Lal Singh was hit, and I just dropped into the trench. To those who ask me, and many do, what sort of men win the VC, I can only reply, any sort. Courage is a strange thing. Men react to different stresses and different conditions in different ways. To very few is it given to be without fear. But if there is a single common denominator among all VCs, I would be inclined to say that it's a degree of obstinacy, a refusal to be beaten or pushed around.
Jackie Smythe was awarded the VC a month later. The 10 Sikhs who'd accompanied him were each given the Indian Order of Merit. Smythe insisted that he deserved a lesser award and they a greater.
If you don't keep your bloody head down, mate, we'll be riding home to your mother.
Yeah, all right, cool.
All right, boys. Take a break, mate.
Over 1,000 miles away, there was another, very different, obstinate man. Albert Jacka is 22, an acting Lance Corporal from Victoria. The ex-lumberjack has led a tough frontier life, so hunting and killing are second nature.
Hit anything yet?
Just dingoes, mate.
Albert Jacka became the archetype of the Australian soldier of the First World War. He's a good shot, he's quick, he's determined, he makes decisions lightning fast. He is, if you like, a one-man killing machine.
Like many Australians, Jacka was fighting on a new front against Germany's ally Turkey at Gallipoli. Within days, they were pinned down in a bitter struggle, fighting the Turks across trenches that were often just yards apart. May 19th, 1915. Jacka and his men are under fierce attack, as they have been night after night. They are heavily outnumbered and cannot hold the position.
When all except himself were killed or wounded, the trench was rushed and occupied by 7 Turks.
That was the way that business was done on the Anzac front. The Turks would very often, by sheer weight of numbers and with hand grenades, take a trench, which would then need to be counterattacked.
After several failed attempts to retake the trench head-on, Jacka decides to go it alone. He's outnumbered 7-1.
Lance Corporal Jacka gallantly attacked them single-handed, killing the whole party. 5 by rifle, and 2 with a bayonet.
I think the jackers of this world are comparatively rare. They're the people that win and lose battles. They are the small percentage of people that make a difference. They are that indomitable few that swing the battle your way.
If you could keep looking at the camera.
When his Victoria Cross was announced, Jacker became a sensation. Australia's first VC, a Melbourne businessman, gave him £500 and a gold watch. As the war scaled up, the medal did too. By the summer of 1915, over 100 Victoria Crosses had been awarded for actions on land, in the air and at sea. It is June 1916, on the Gotland coast in southwest Sweden. The body of a British naval officer of the rank of commander is washed up on the shore. His right leg has been severed below the knee. Days earlier, Titans had clashed. The British and German fleets met for a mighty showdown off the Danish coast at Jutland. The Germans lost 11 ships and 2,500 men. British losses were higher, 14 ships and 6,000 dead. Among them was Commander Loftus-Jones, a 36-year-old career sailor who joined the Navy at the age of 15. During the battle, his ship was disabled by enemy fire. Jones's leg was blown off by a shell, but he remained on the bridge and kept the ship fighting until she was hit by a torpedo and sank. Jones went down with his ship. When his VC was awarded, his commanding officer wrote, "No finer act has been produced in the annals of the Navy." In the days after the battle, the wounded are brought upriver to Hull. Among them, the 16-year-old Jack Cornwell, a young sailor with the rank of boy first class. The one-time tea delivery boy had realized his ambition the previous year, joining the Navy just after his 15th birthday.
Let's take a look at you.
Cornwell was part of a gun crew on the destroyer HMS Chester. They were all killed or wounded when the gun received a direct hit. But despite his wounds, Jack stayed at his post. Cornwell is taken to Grimsby Hospital, and his mother is sent for. But she was never to see him alive again. John Travers Cornwell died of his wounds the following day. His body was buried in a simple grave near his home in Essex without a gravestone, as there was not enough money to pay for one. It was a quiet end, But within months, Jack Cornwell would become one of the most celebrated VCs of all time. It is July the 1st, 1916, 6:50 a.m. Troops of the Ulster Division, mainly from Northern Ireland, are making final preparations for the Battle of the Somme. The Somme attack was preceded by the biggest artillery bombardment the world had ever seen. Over 1 million shells were fired, designed to pulverize German defences and allow the British to break through. Before the day is out, 9 men will win VCs. Among them, 20-year-old Billy McFadgen, a private from Lurgan, County Armagh. He will win his VC in the next few minutes through a freak accident before the battle proper has even begun.
I think the VC rewards all sorts of courage, and some acts of courage rewarded by the Victoria Cross are cold courage that takes a long time, where somebody's doing something in the foreknowledge that it's risky. Billy McFadgen's VC is at the other end of the scale. This is instant courage. I mean, here is a man who has to respond quickly. I mean, at the very most, he's got 4 seconds. He has to make an instant decision which will save other people's lives at the certain cost of his own, and he makes it.
Billy McFadgen's Victoria Cross was announced a year later, one of 4 VCs won by the Ulster Division that day. The Somme attack was a disaster for Britain. Nearly 60,000 men were killed or wounded on the first day. The worst casualties in the history of the British Army. For the military, it was a severe blow. Back home in England, public grief at the losses of the Somme leads to a bizarre event. 3 weeks after the battle, a body is disinterred from a simple grave in Essex.
Load him up.
It is the remains of Jack Cornwell. The story of the neglected boy hero in his pauper's grave
Drive on!
has hit the papers. The press launch a campaign to have the boy properly honoured, and the public is right behind it. The Admiralty agrees to dig up the body for immediate reburial in a lavish state funeral. It was filmed for the newsreels and shown the length and breadth of the country, a country mourning the death of so many sons on the Somme. Within a few weeks, the Admiralty bowed to further public pressure and made Jack Cornwell the youngest VC of the Great War.
The Cornwall VC does get awarded because of press pressure. This is not to say that he wasn't brave, this is not to say that it wasn't an act worthy of the VC, but it is different. And it shows the way in which the VC has gone from being a purely military award to something which, in a sense, reflects the way that the nation thinks of a particular act.
The Somme offensive grinds on.
Got another one for you, Doc.
What have we got, Geordie?
In the thick of it are the Liverpool Scottish and their medical officer, Noel Chavasse. They suffer heavy losses. And Chavasse shows his true courage in the killing zone of no man's land. Over the next 48 hours, Chavasse takes extraordinary risks, well beyond what's expected of a medical officer.
Captain Chavasse attended to the wounded all day under heavy fire.
Any Liverpool Scots?
That night, he continued the search right in front of enemy lines.
We found a young private and discovered he was bleeding badly from one arm. And so we held the main artery and put a tourniquet on. Then I realized the arm was all but off and a source of danger.
Better give him something to bite down on. Bite down on this, okay? Bite hard. Got it.
So with a pair of scissors, I cut it off. And sewed the stump up. It took us 2 hours to get him back.
I'll get you on a stretcher and get you back to the trenches, all right?
For his 48 hours of extraordinary courage, Chavasse's commanding officer recommends Noel for the Victoria Cross.
Take out the... Right, thank you.
The citation states that he saved the lives of at least 20 men.
Thank you, sir.
By 1916, the new heroes of the VC are the fighter pilots. 6 Victoria Crosses have so far been won by airmen. It's about to become 7.
Everything all right, Corporal?
Yes, sir. All in order, sir.
William Leaf Robinson is 21, a fighter pilot in the Royal Flying Corps. On the night of September 2nd, 1916, he's at the front line of Britain's defence against a new threat. German Zeppelins have brought the war to Britain's civilians for the first time, and many have died in bombing raids on London. Shooting them down has so far proved impossible.
Switch is on, sir.
Contact.
Contact.
But tonight, Leaf Robinson's plane has been fitted with a new form of ammunition designed to explode on impact.
I saw nothing till 1:10 a.m. when 2 searchlights picked up a Zeppelin southeast of Woolwich. But the clouds were already collecting when I made in the direction of the airship, and I soon lost it in the clouds.
An hour later, after 3 hours in the air, he encounters the Zeppelin again.
When the colossal thing actually burst into flames, of course it was a glorious sight. It literally lit up all the sky around, and me as well, of course. I saw my machine as in the firelight and sat, still half dazed, staring at the wonderful sight.
Leif Robinson's exploits could be seen from the London suburbs below. These were the first British civilians ever to witness an aerial battle. Robinson is awarded the VC faster than any man before or since.
Thank you very much.
The press make him a star.
5 artists have offered to paint my portrait for the Royal Academy. I am recognised whenever I go into town now, whether in uniform or mufti. The city police salute me. The waiters, hall porters and pages of hotels and restaurants bow and scrape. I even have a telegram from the general in charge of the whole Royal Flying Corps.
William Leif Robinson's VC is held in the Ashcroft Collection, the world's largest collection of Victoria Crosses.
To say that he became an instant hero is almost an understatement. It is quite hard, I think, for us in the modern age to understand the impact of what this man did on the national feeling. Vast crowds turned out to line the streets of Windsor when he went there to receive his VC from King George V. Over 30,000 Londoners trekked out to see the remains of the Zeppelin on the ground and to take bits as souvenirs. I should think the feel-good factor at the time was huge, almost beyond our comprehension. And for that reason, I think in the scheme of the history of the VC, this is one of the most significant.
The winter of 1916-17 was one of the coldest on record. Some commanders reported men freezing to death on the line. Many were in despair, convinced that the war would never come to an end. But suddenly, the future was a less grim prospect for Noel Chavas. He'd become engaged.
From this letter you will see that I am in love. I can hardly believe my good fortune, because I used to think I should never get Gladys. The danger is in making her my religion.
Seize up, sir. Right, thank you, Private. I'll be up in a moment.
I still seem to love my poor men and to feel for them more than ever, but at last I have a reason to get through the war. I hope it will not tempt me to neglect my duty.
Evening, chaps. Everything all right?
In March 1917, temptation is put Chavas's way when he's offered a safe job in a base hospital behind the lines.
Let me know if anything changes.
But he quickly turns it down.
I have written to the base hospital and said that though I valued the offer, I thought I had better stay with the lads. They don't want to get hurt or killed any more than I do.
How are you doing, Private Beebe? Let's have a little look at your cut.
One of their choruses, as they trudge up to the line, is, "Oh my, I don't want to die. I want to go home." If they have to stick it out, why shouldn't I?
July 1917, Passchendaele. The biggest British offensive of the war since the Somme. The battlefield soon resembles a swamp. Among the heavy casualties are the Liverpool Scottish.
Do you think we should go on?
Yes, fine.
Chavasse is seriously wounded on the first day of battle, but against all advice, refuses to leave the men. By the end of that day, the Liverpool Scottish have fought their way to the first line of German trenches. Chavasse goes forward with the men, setting up his dressing station in an abandoned German dugout.
Steady on. Listen more for you, slowly.
Close to collapse, he's pushing himself further and harder than ever before.
Doc. Doc. There's somebody to take you back. To get that head seen to.
Is someone else coming up?
I can't say, sir.
Well then, you can wait. Take one of the others.
You're sure, sir?
Quite sure, Private. Now trot along.
Yes, sir.
Although practically without food, worn with fatigue and faint from his wound, he continued to help the wounded, being instrumental in saving many who would otherwise have died.
Later that night, in a moment of sheer bad luck, Noel's dugout is hit by a shell. He is severely injured and is taken away to a field hospital.
Forasmuch as it hath pleased Almighty God of his greatness himself the soul of our dear brother here departed, we therefore commit his body to the ground. Earth to earth, ashes to ashes, dust to dust.
Noel died of his wounds the following day and was buried in a field cemetery behind British lines.
His glorious body, according to the mighty working whereby he is able to subdue all things to himself. Greater love hath no man than this, that a man lay down his life for his friends. Amen.
Amen. Noel Chavasse was awarded a second VC within weeks of his death. He was the only double VC of the Great War. His parents received over 700 letters of condolence, including one from the palace. The king is grieved to hear of the death of your son, and feels the whole army will mourn the loss of so brave a brother. Among the letters was one from the nurse who was with Noel when he died. His last thoughts were for Gladys. Tell her, he said, that duty called me, and called me to obey. Noel Chavasse's life was over at the age of 32, but the war carried on. It is the winter of 1917. The Germans are preparing to launch a massive offensive designed to win them the war. It will be on the scale of the Somme, too big to keep secret. For the British, it is an eerie wait. Some have reached fateful decisions. Wilfrith Elstob is 29, a rugby-playing schoolmaster from Cheshire, commanding a battalion of the Manchester Regiment. He tells his men they will fight to the last, and there will be no surrender.
He knew that he was going to die. He knew that he was going to die on Manchester Hill, and he was going to take as many Germans with him as he possibly could, and he was comfortable with that.
The attack is launched. Elstob and his men are hopelessly outnumbered. But at midday, they telephone headquarters. We will hold the hill to the last. All along the attack front, the Germans push forward, overwhelming the defenders. Many British positions surrender, but not Elstob's. At 3:30 p.m, a final message is sent from Manchester Hill. The end is nearly come. By 4:30, it's all over. Among the many dead was Elstob himself. His body was last seen half stripped. Much of his uniform had been taken for souvenirs. Even his boots had gone. A survivor reported that before their last assault, the Germans called on him to surrender. He replied, "Never," and was shot dead.
I think that's a particular sort of courage where you recognise that you will lose and you will die, and at the end of the day, all of this, all of your future will be as nothing. It'll be trodden into the mud somewhere. But by your contribution, you will eventually swing that long battle in favour of your own side.
By late March, the British, in part because of Elstob and others like him, were pushing the Germans back again. In August, the German army had its blackest day, when nearly 30,000 men became casualties. And at 11 a.m, on November the 11th, 1918, the war finally came to an end. For the soldiers who'd endured its horrors, it was time to come home. Among them was a man who hadn't seen England for nearly 5 years. Sid Godley's long years as a prisoner were finally over. Three months later, he received his Victoria Cross from the King at Buckingham Palace. 4.5 years after he'd earned it, on that far-distant summer's day in August 1914. Sid became a school caretaker after the war and died aged 68 in 1957. William Leaf Robinson spent the last year of the war as a prisoner, having been shot down. He was home by Christmas, but succumbed to the flu epidemic sweeping Europe. On New Year's Eve, 1918, he died aged 23. Albert Jacker became a businessman after the war, but found it hard to adjust to civilian life. He died of kidney failure in 1932, just before his 39th birthday. Jackie Smythe became a career army officer and rose to the rank of brigadier. He died in 1983 at the age of 89. After the war, Noel Chavasse was reburied near where he fell. His gravestone is engraved with 2 Victoria Crosses, the only one like it in the world. It carries an inscription that could stand for so many VCs of the Great War. Greater love hath no man than this, that a man lay down his life for his friends.